All right, we're live. Welcome to Pej's Recovery Corner. This is a recovery podcast where we speak about all things recovery, uh, alcoholism, drug addiction, mental health. We have various guests to come on and talk about their recovery, their lives, and then the recovery. Today, our special guest is Ara Bedelian.
Hey guys,
Welcome to the corner, Ara.
thank you for having me, Pej.
Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Ara has been in my life for a number of years now, sober for a number of years. Usually we delve into your past. We'd like to know where you were born, how you were raised, where you were raised, your lifestyle, your family style, all that. And then we'll get into the other stuff too, as far as alcohol addiction. And then we get into the recovery portion. So who is Ara Bedelian?
Well, I am from originally Indiana. I was born there, but I moved to California before I was a year old. So I've been Orange County based for a long time. My family was pretty well to do, had everything provided for me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any of my needs not met growing up. Had a little brother, 2 years apart. Mom and dad, educated professionals, working as professors at university, and that's basically a good picture of it. I mean, no drama, no craziness, problematic family members. In fact, my extended family just really doesn't have any issues related to addiction or
Alcoholism.
Yeah.
So when you say they were professors, I mean, obviously they're musicians.
Yes.
So they were teaching music
Mm-hmm.
in a renowned school.
Yes.
Very prominent. A lot of people go to this particular school in Orange County.
Yes.
Now, you yourself did you have any siblings?
Yeah, I had a little brother.
Okay. Them being musicians, you grew up in a musical home.
Mm-hmm.
So did you become a musician too?
I played violin for 12 years.
Starting at what age?
Must have been, it was the age of, 7, 8 or something like that. It was put into my hands. It was introduced to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was told I had a talent for it. I got into OSHA, the Orange County High School of the Arts, for my sight reading ability.
I know OSHA.
But I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I hated having to slow down, perfect every single note, different techniques. I ran through 5 different violin teachers, each one trying to get me to go about it a certain way. I tried exploring other avenues. I tried exploring guitar, bass guitar, saxophone, piano. I played piano for an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
I remember distinctly. I was in a toy aisle and I really wanted this one toy. And, my mom says, okay, well, you're going to earn it. And then so she placed it on the piano stand with the music. And then she's like, all right, here are the point system, just get to it. And then after, I forget, I'm pretty sure it was either close to a year, something like that, I had played the piano. And the second I hit the last note on the last sheet of music, I just got off the bench, got the toy and walked away.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, you're not interested in this? And I'm like, no, I just wanted the toy. I'm out of here.
Do you think they were really hopeful of you becoming a musician?
They definitely still bring it up. They were hopeful. Always not too late.
I mean, you're still a musician. You played violin for 12 years. It's not like you forgot.
I can pick it up and play, muscle memory still lives on.
Yeah.
But I haven't tried in a long time. I couldn't tell you. But yeah, the notes have stuck with me. I just haven't picked it up.
Okay, and then your brother is younger than you. Did he become a musician at all, or did he play any music?
No, my brother's actually he's a filmmaker now, and he's involved in that world. Got very involved in that. So
nice. So as far as like your young life and high school life, when you went to high school, did you start experimenting with alcohol or drugs at a very young age?
No. I didn't really get into it until probably my later years in high school. I mean, and it wasn't even that much. It was like every now and then, like on a blue moon, it would just, there'd be a party or something and I'd go to it and then I'd do it, but I didn't think much of it. I mean, I had a great time when I did do it.
Mhm.
That's one thing that did stick out to me, is that I seemed to enjoy it a lot more than the people that were around me.
How so?
Well, when I would drink, it would definitely, like, it made me become something that I didn't think I was when I wasn't drinking. And some people say, "Oh yeah, you can say that about like drinking in general. People get drunk. People say and do things that they're not usually capable of or would have a filter on."
Mhm.
But for me, I think that euphoria that I hit when I took those drinks, that was something where my mind began its little hints of an obsession about who it is that I became. Whenever that was done.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was kind of a precursor. Again, I didn't abuse it. I wasn't like doing it every single day. So, some people say, "Oh, I did that one time," and I'm like, "Oh my God, I have to do that every single day for like the rest of my life." But that wasn't it for me. I had a first time. I was like, "It's great, it's fun, it's really cool," but like I'm not going to start prioritizing this over other things in my life right now.
Gotcha. So, and how old was that? Like when you first got into
That
it?
was probably like, I don't know, 17, 18.
It's kind of like later on. A lot of people
Yeah.
start super early. A lot of people, like during high school years, sophomore year maybe.
Mhm.
Sounds like. Okay, so then drugs. Was there any drugs around? Weed,
We do that like on
hallucinogens?
occasion. No hallucinogens.
Not interested.
I just I wasn't really hanging in with the hallucinogenic crowd. I guess I don't know. It wasn't.
Were you studious? Were you good in school?
I was bored at school, and I wasn't like. I guess you could say I wasn't like the most on point with like performance academically, because I was distracted by other things. These things didn't really interest me.
Mhm.
I was fine. I went through high school and it was great. I didn't like graduate with honors or like, was a valedictorian or anything, but like, I don't know. My interest was just never really in the, in what I was learning.
Mhm.
I had fascinations beyond that. I did excel in, I got a computer science recognition at high school. I started working with Photoshop when I was like, 2000 it must have been like 2006. And I really, really enjoyed, imagery, being able to manipulate it. I remember one time I tried to Photoshop my head on a guy on a picture driving a Lamborghini. And I showed it to my friend in high school to try and pass it off as if it were me. And he's like, that's not you. That's not you. He put it in some like weird like online like photo renderer, and just it was blatantly obvious that I posted my face on there. But I'm like, you know what? Like, I tried. I wanted to see if I could pull them, and I couldn't. But yeah, that's one area where like I really did excel. Was like I was super super into digital imagery.
Okay, and then you finished high school on time.
Yep.
Ended up going to university, college.
Yeah, went up north in San Francisco, and I pursued my graphic design. And actually, no, I started off in industrial design. I really wanted to be a car designer. That was a really, really tough major. Not like a very low success rate, because people don't really understand all that goes into it and how tedious it is. And so I went into graphic design instead. And then it was during this college time where like, and I'll backtrack a little bit because this is kind of like what I'm talking about, right? Is like my struggle with like Adderall. Mm-hmm. And this is like something where I'll backpedal a little bit, where I was a younger kid and I was not interested. It was hard for me to maintain attention. And so I was taken to certain like therapists.
How old?
I don't know. Must have been when I was like in grade school or
something.
Okay,
so at a very young age.
Very young age.
Yes.
And their solution to that was to put me on Ritalin.
Okay.
Ritalin made me very angry. It was the only time that I ever was like, I guess, really acting out as a kid, like noticeably different. Like I turned into the Hulk. It gave me this adverse effect where I was like just.
So it wasn't serving its purpose.
No, I was a rage ball. And
so just to be clear, when children are prescribed Ritalin, because of attention deficit disorder, it's to be able to have them more focused and calm them down.
Yes.
Because they may act a certain way or act out. When adults take Ritalin, not just Ritalin,
Yeah, but Adderall and stuff.
Adderall, things like that, stimulants.
Mhm.
It's for them to be more focused, obviously, more attentive, more focused on whatever they're doing in their lives, so that they're not always scattered. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So this had a totally adverse effect comparison to what other kids are supposed to be taking Ritalin for, which
Yes.
I was really never a fan of kids being on Ritalin in the first place.
No.
I've actually worked in a lot of treatment settings and asked a lot of kids that were in treatment, were you ever on Ritalin when you were a kid? And a lot of them will raise their hands and say yes. And I think to myself, did a dependency possibly start at a very young age for these individuals that they ended up going and seeking other types of drugs throughout their lives, which ended up, like in their young adulthood, ended them up in treatment. So go on.
Yeah. So, and that's the point. It's supposed to have a certain kind of effect.
Mhm.
It didn't on me, and they stopped the buck there. They were like, okay, we're just not going to try any more medication. It wasn't until about midway through college that I was given this pill called Adderall, and I hadn't really ever heard of it or paid attention to it.
At that time, it was like the modern day Ritalin.
Basically, yeah. And like you described, these effects that are supposed to occur within someone who takes this drug, you're supposed to slow them down, get them to concentrate. I definitely got the focus part, but I sped,
in college.
Yes, but I sped up.
Right.
It had this reaction to where it felt amazing. It felt great. I wanted to smoke all the time.
Smoke cigarettes?
Yes. And it just put me in this zone where you get hyper organized. You have like no appetite, you don't sleep, and you just focus on things that you just want to do all the time. And there's like this endless pit of like energy. And again, I was like, oh my God, like this is great. This is something that like I could maybe get, because I remember I was diagnosed when I was a younger kid. Like I was told I have like ADD. And so I'm like, I can get a prescription for this. So I did just that. I got a prescription for Adderall, and that addiction that I began to form to it, because I was also drinking, but the Adderall is what, permitted drinking all the time. I could take it and I wouldn't feel as, out of it with drinking. I was drunk. And after college, it followed me into my first career. I got a career as I was a creative director for a company, a travel agency. And that was where, taking it on a continual basis, drinking all the time, I was running short on my prescription. I was doctor shopping. I had one doctor prescribing me 90 pills, another doctor prescribing me 30 pills. This is back, one was on insurance, one was not. Right. And this is back before, I guess, the systems at the pharmacy had synced up super crazy like they are today. And so I was burning through 120 pills of 30 milligram instant release. And I was running short I was doing that in 2 weeks. My heart was beating like a machine gun. I wasn't sleeping. When I would run out, I would be fluctuating in weight. I was like, in between 20 pounds or so. I would just not eat for like 2 weeks straight. And then all I would do was the crash. And personally, I loved the crash. People would tell me like they hated the crash of Adderall, because you just sleep all day, you eat, you you just wake up periodically, you dream super hard. This was my experience. Right. And so it was like something to look forward to. And meanwhile, like my life was beginning to just sort of like, tear apart. Like socially, I didn't care. I was, ruining friendships. I was getting in trouble with relationships. And it was all because I had this weird obsession. What Adderall did to me was it stole my identity. I became convinced that I couldn't function at a certain level unless I had this drug inside of my system. It would get to the point where if I got up and I didn't have any pills left, I would just say, well, what's the point? And when I took the pill, when I had been out for a long time, it felt like I was, submerging, or I was like coming up my head above water, because I was like, oh, colors are more vibrant now. My brain's wired now. It's activated. It's ready. And with my, my design career, I didn't think I could do what I do without it. And it was in reality kind of the opposite. I was doing it, but it was like done where I would, produce like a magazine, and the colors would be off. And I remember one time I like did a placeholder on a page with my number, and I put a different area code, and then I sent it off to this print job that were like, I don't know how many thousand copies were being made, and it all had this wrong number on it. But like, those are just the things that like you just kind of graze over because your mind is just so exhausted. You're up for like 3-4 days, and that's all you do is you go to work all day, and you come home and you play video games until you start hearing birds chirping, and then you do it all over again. And it really just robbed me of like my self-esteem. It robbed me of my self-respect. It robbed me of everything, because I was just, again, I was fixated on that feeling and that rush. So when
were you drinking all the while?
Yeah, I was drinking too, just to kind of level it out,
Yeah.
If I had too much Adderall, I get kind of weird and awkward. And I remember one time actually I saw a video of myself, and I couldn't believe it, but my mouth was doing that the whole time.
Right.
I had no idea. This is just like the outside, like looking in and seeing that. And I was like, oh my God, like, I can't believe, like, I was like, whatever. I didn't care though. I saw it once and I was like, it didn't matter to me. Cause again, like, it's just that feeling. And so like, I need this to survive, and I need this to be a functional human being, which is insanity. Like, that's insanity. So when my insurance ran out, or when I was off my parents' insurance at the age of 26, because I mean, at that point I wasn't really taking the best care of myself. I took my last, little bit of prescription that I had left. I had my doctor write me like 3 more prescriptions worth for 3 months worth.
Yeah.
And then that was it. Like, my life kind of like took a pretty dark turn at that point. It already was like decently dark.
Right.
But it's when like you run out of this like elixir of the gods that like, you've gotten so used to taking from and like using to like charge your lifestyle.
I always call it the nectar of the gods, but I like that. The elixir of the gods. I'm going to steal that from you.
Do it. Steal it. I won't charge you.
Borrow it.
Yeah. So yeah.
So then what?
Well, I found out that just drinking, just, you can't be that productive when you're drinking most of the time. Still chasing that feeling that you got. Wasn't quite the same. My life began to get worse and worse. I found myself, having to go to treatment. And I did that 3 times.
3 treatments?
3 treatment episodes.
You went to treatment 3 times?
Yes.
Okay.
I went to treatment 3 times.
What age?
27. No, I'm sorry. My first stint was in 2024, I believe. Or no, 2025. And then the next one was 26. And then the one after that was 27.
Okay.
And
locally or far away?
Locally. I'm from Orange County, so the mecca of recovery is just like in my backyard, I guess.
Yes.
And each of those times I did it at the same place. I had the same case managers, same therapists, same staff, well, mostly the same. And the only thing that changed inside of me was that I had exhausted all other options. And I got into a program of recovery. I learned to prioritize my life differently, focusing on the sole thing of, staying and remaining in that active lifestyle of recovery, placing it first. And then eventually, seeing my way to, instead of going like this, going downhill, things started to go uphill, and dramatically so. It wasn't like any lateral movement. It just kept going up and up and up. And it was because I had exhausted all options in my life.
Loss of support from your family?
No, my family always did hang in hope. It was close. I think they were about ready to pull the plug on me. I can't speak for that 100%,
right.
But I just know that was like, they were just exhausted. But I found my way into new opportunity. utilizing this community of recovery that we have.
When you entered rehab those 3 times, was it because you had Adderall addiction and alcoholism?
Yes. The first time was Adderall and alcohol. Second time was.
And you knew each time my life is messed up, I got to go to rehab?
Yes.
Okay.
No. I'm sorry. The first time, that was on the mom card. She begged me.
What?
Second time, I was kind of in a corner, and then but I wasn't in complete defeat. And then the third time was when I was totally.
The second time, what happened that you feel like you were kind of in a corner? What was the life event, a crisis?
No, I just kind of like admitted like I can't do this anymore. Like I was in a point where like I was desperate, and I'm like, this is I've tried to climb this mountain that is life. That's the way I saw it at the time.
You couldn't live it,
and I just couldn't. And I had to get things in order, and I was like, maybe there is something to this after all. But I got distracted when I was doing that the second time. I didn't keep recovery as my priority, and thus, I mean, if we're prone to this kind of disease that we have, then chances are if there's nothing to remedy that then you're going to be left with going right back where you started.
Got it. So then the third time, third luck's a charm.
I guess so.
You went in. How long did you stay?
I stayed for almost a year. In the actual facility, I stayed for about 4 months, and then I stayed another like roughly 6-7 months in sober living. And I was still kind of popping into the treatment center every now and then. But I just kind of I was like, okay, like I'm 27. If I don't act now or do something about this, things are going to get a lot worse.
So you had enough sense at that time as a 27-year-old to want to change your life because you knew that if you didn't, you'd just be going in that cycle.
Exactly. I'd seen enough. And that's not to say that like anybody who doesn't get it at 27 is like, wow, like that's really messed up. But that's just that's when it hit me. Like realizing like I have all these friends who are going off and being successful and doing things and getting married, buying houses and all this other stuff. And me, what do I have to show for it?
Right.
And so, yeah, so that's how it went. And the crazy thing is that, I've been sober for about 6 years now, and I am now in a position where I'm doing almost exactly, if not more than what I was, doing when I was a design. I build websites now, I design, and this is stuff that I thought I was convinced that I needed Adderall to take and to do. And not only am I doing it,
right,
but I'm doing it way better than than what I was doing last time.
It's amazing when you're in a certain addiction, you have a thought process that we will convince ourselves that it has to be one way and it can't be any other way. We can't see life any other way. I remember thinking the same thing for a long time when I was going to the Art Institute. I thought, well, I don't want to go here because I'm not sober and I'll probably mess this up.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going to be going here, which I did end up going, I need to be on a lot of speed in order for me to achieve, which I then tanked everything and ruined it all.
Yeah.
Now I know when I got sober, I thought if I was in that school, I bet I would do just fine.
No, yeah, that's the truth. It's crazy. Like there's a guy who I watched this documentary, and it's about a guy. I'm going to butcher this because like I haven't seen it in such a long time. I forgot what the guy's name was. I think he was a psychologist or a doctor or a scientist or something. Like probably neurobiology or something, but he studied the human brain for a long time. He dedicated like 10 years of his life to like this research of what makes people who struggle with substance abuse disorder the way that they are. And something that stuck with me when I was watching, it's very boring. It looks like a Jeep commercial. Mm-hmm. But he says like blind people can't sense light correctly. Deaf people can't sense sound correctly. People who struggle with addiction cannot sense pleasure correctly because like this dopamine release, I guess, area in the head is like, it's like Niagara Falls where regular people don't get that same effect. That's why, and that kind of made a little sense to me. I'm like, people who describe the experience they have when they take that first drink or whatever, like, and then when someone who doesn't have struggle with alcohol or addiction or whatever, and they describe their experience with it, like when someone says, I have arrived, this is amazing, this is the most amazing feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. Like, I'm like, that kind of makes sense. You know, I don't put that as like the sole reason for behind everything,
Right.
but it is definitely interesting how, you know, seeing my experiences and hearing about others, you know, it just does kind of make sense. If someone, that's why you can take someone who's been sober for like 20 years and then they decide to go back out and then they have another drink. They're like, you know what, I have a lot of this knowledge about my condition and I know I'll be better this next time. But for some reason beyond their control, they take something and they can't help themselves, you know?
Why do you think that is? From your experience, when you see somebody with that amount of time go back out, what are they lacking in the recovery process?
I don't know. I think it's all personal. I think that they've obviously stopped prioritizing what they need to be prioritizing to keep it, you know, fresh. I mean, this disease that people suffer from, you know, it is like, it's something that requires a constant check of like, you know, where it's at. And people who do that, oftentimes they always say, like, you know, someone who decides to go out has like made the decision months prior sometimes, and then they decide to just act on it. So, yeah.
So as far as you say, you have 6 years now?
Yes.
For a guy that's got 6 years, what does your recovery look like as far as what do you do to maintain your sobriety and enjoy being sober?
Well, to me, you know, to tie it back to like the instrument or the music thing, it takes a lot of time, effort, and practice, just like a new language, just like a new instrument.
Right.
It takes time to master, and you have to keep it priority. So for me, I have to continually, you know, attend to my recovery program. I have to make sure my responsibilities and my duties are kept there. Doing what I can do to help the person who is new. That's what a lot of that revolves around, is like, you know, being there to go out of your way to make sure someone else is okay. And that's what I do on a weekly basis. I have that surrounding me as like one of the biggest points of my life, if not the biggest. Mm-hmm. And I have learned to be happy. I have learned to be confident. I have learned to be, you know, I'm not perfect at it. I mean, far from it sometimes, but I've learned to live again. You know, it's crazy. Like, I think I spent 7 years of my life in problematic usage. And, you know, I just turned, you know, 6 not too long ago. And I was like, oh, people say, how does it feel? And I say, well, it's the same way it did, like, you know, year 5. But what did hit me was I was like, if I do this one more year, I will have been clean the same exact time that I had been problematic using. And that's kind of crazy. And so it just becomes like, you know, your new way of life.
Yeah. And you have a community of friends that are in sobriety. How did you build that community? Like what did you find a bunch of sober people that you really got down with, and they like sobriety the way that you like sobriety? Yeah.
It's you know, it's about finding your crowd, finding those people that are, you know, do well and you know have it going on, mm-hmm. and you quickly learn to make them your world and your life, and catch on to what it is that they've caught on to. You know, you can't stray too far away, especially when you're first getting it. You cannot, you know, veering away from that, still continuing to be involved in old things and places, mm-hmm. doesn't serve, you know, and so especially in early on sobriety, I was always taught to make the first question in my head, does this help or does this take away from my sobriety? And so that's kind of what I used as my compass to wherever I would navigate. And so, yeah, I found a group that did that effectively, that I clicked with, and it definitely made the process that much easier.
And then what about service work in recovery? Tell me how that looks for you as far as being of service to people.
You go to, you know, panels. You know, I've done panels. I do. I go out and if I'm asked to do a commitment somewhere, I do that. If someone's struggling and you know, actively drinking and needs help, you go out and you help them when you're asked, stuff like that. That's what the service work is, and of course, attending the program of recovery itself as well.
And then do you meet people too that have had that are new in recovery that have had Adderall or alcoholism that you can relate with, and do you talk to them, and how do you talk to them? What do you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, I just tell them my experience with it, and it is very eye-opening. I didn't have someone talk to me about it who struggled with my exact. I mean, at least they didn't identify the problem with Adderall like I felt it.
Right.
And I'm sure there are tons of people who did. I just didn't ask. But I have spoken to certain people that are new, and when I say and describe my experience with it and what I'm doing today, that curtain of that illusion that they are under, kind of like you can kind of see it. There's a snap of like, wait a minute, I think he's probably full of it, but there's a chance maybe he's not, because that's how I would have felt. 100%. I went. I'm telling you, like that amount of denial and disbelief, you are submerged. It's crazy.
Right. Well, it's good. I'm so happy that you overcame these addictions, if you will, and got sober at a young age. I often see people get sober in their mid-20s, and I try to compare myself to when I was in that age bracket. It was like there was ideas, there was thoughts, there was experiences, there was things that were happening to me, but I kept fighting it because I thought, no, I got this. Like sobriety was the last thing that was on my mind, at least complete abstinence, complete sobriety. I hadn't yet created enough problems for myself. Well, the problems were starting to accumulate later into my late 20s, but I didn't think that I need to get help. Rehab was definitely not like I didn't even really know about rehab. I didn't know anything about it. So to see you do it at such a young age is admirable. I mean, it's really awesome. And then to stay sober and to keep doing this thing. And I watch you. I've known you. I see you help a lot of people. You're very instrumental in other people's recovery. And I feel like you're here to stay. And I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, I appreciate it, Pej. I can say the same about you.
You're a good man. I do believe there's a lot of things that you could do a lot more of in your life as far as professionally. That's why I always push you and tell you should try this or try that, or why not do this and that, because I believe in you big time. I just know you're a brilliant young man, and it's so good to see you happy in your life. I know you got a lot of good things going on in your life, and thank you for coming on Pej's Recovery Corner.
Well, thank you for having me, Pej. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.